Hey, this is Dave Pryor. Welcome back to Agile 2019 here in the Leading Agile booth. We've been doing interviews all week long with speakers and thought leaders, and this is the very last one with the closing keynote.
Woohoo!
Portia Tung.
Yes.
Is that good?
Hello, Dave. All good.
I'm trying.
We're friends.
Okay. So the talk you're going to give tomorrow morning is called Playful Leadership, How to Enable Transformational Change and Have Fun Doing It.
Absolutely.
So you go into companies and teach people how to play.
Well, you know, I have this thing about the word teaching. I think I share ways of thinking and techniques of how to play.
Okay.
I also embed a lot of that play science naturally within the work. So it's more probably playfulness that they experience.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So can you give an example of what somebody would
I've got a great
through in one of your
I've got a
classes?
story. So for the sort of 15 years I've been doing Agile in organizations, I'd always had this theory that we could test the system to see how we could make Agile grow without actually doing Agile. So about 3 years ago, I learned to play with the ukulele.
Okay.
So I say play with deliberately because I don't play it. I play with it and do a best effort and have fun.
Okay.
So I thought, if an organization could sustain a ukulele lunchtime club, that is a big deal because it takes courage to sing. And in particular, my criteria was actually to run it in a public place where colleagues would see them and that it would be allowed to grow and, just happen. And last year I found this company. They seem pretty open. They have more Slack group channels than employees. So then more than one per employee. It was amazing.
Like they need more work to do.
Okay, but it's lovely because they all have their little tribes, and then they don't all just sit there and watch the Slack channels. They all, have their passion. Anyway, so I started the Slack channel, and I, did a call to action, and people showed up. And so once a week, we would rock up at sort of 12 o'clock at lunchtime. People would bring their ukuleles. Some people who had never played before. I'd bring the songbooks, and then we'd basically call out the song, be it ABBA, Presley, Beatles, and it was a great songbook. And then we just flick the pages, and then we just sing. And I don't know, do you know much about the ukulele, Dave?
I play guitar.
Oh, right. Excellent.
I bought my daughter a ukulele.
Yeah, so the thing is,
It's really easy to play.
Yeah, that's it, right? 4 strings and not steel strings, so it doesn't burn your fingers if you've got soft fingertips. So that's the thing. It's so accessible, and nobody takes themselves seriously when you play the ukulele.
Okay.
Because it would just be foolish.
So how big a part of it is that they're able to do something where they don't have to take themselves seriously?
Indeed. Well, hang on. So what was interesting was when I sent out this call to action, I also kind of talked to what they call catalysts. So instead of Agile coaches, they have these catalysts. Therefore, they're not just specific to Agile. They could do different things. So I've mentioned to a few of them, just thought I'd start this ukulele club. If you're interested or you have friends who'd like to come, just let them know. Yeah. Kind of thing. And I asked everybody, not just the catalysts, but on the first one, the inauguration jam, they were the ones who showed up. And I thought, you know what?
That's awesome.
Those are the right people doing the job. So this is like such a different way of sensing a system. And then they would carry on coming regularly. And then, of course, they would bring people that they were coaching in their teams. And then people who weren't coaches or catalysts would come, and I would know that they were like the leaders of their tribe, right? Because it takes real guts to sort of sit there and have colleagues walk past you at lunchtime to kind of, do whatever.
But if you've got those catalysts, it sends a message to the rest of the organization.
Yeah, that we are prepared to be seen. And I think that's really one of the key attributes of a playful leader is actually being real. And it doesn't matter what you do and what you look like, as long as you are just feeling you. And that builds trust.
So what is the playful thing gonna unlock? I mean, if you've got a very traditional minded leader, used to managing by control or something like that, you're introducing these things to them. What are they going to get out of it? Yeah.
So the key thing with play is that true play is safe play, fair play, and being a good sport. So these are 3 concepts that most of us, 3 rules, if you like.
I'm thinking about playing Risk with my family, and it's never that. It's not safe, it's not fair, and we just crush each other. Very competitive. So the question is that true play? I don't know. I mean, for whoever wins, maybe it feels like playing. For the rest of us, it's just a beating. Yeah. So I would say that that probably isn't true play because the moment the winning overrides the enjoyment, it becomes competition.
Yeah. So this is why it's so interesting when we look at that from a leadership perspective, because it reminded me so much of, here is a game I can play.
Yeah.
This is, safe play. It's going to be fair play. So you're going to give me feedback, but you know what? I'm going to give you feedback too, because play is about equality and it levels literally the playing field. It's no longer hierarchical. It's just two people interacting.
Collaborating together.
Yeah, it's collaboration. And I think leaders find that refreshing.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of it is also in the behaviors of, how people embody and show up with play.
And help each other.
Absolutely.
So it is similar to improv. I mean, Jesse mentioned
Oh, absolutely. I'd say an improv is an implementation of play, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things I'd say, which is quite interesting for play that people seem drawn to, is there's something called the play cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, so experts have studied how children play, and they've kind of said, okay, well, what does it look like when we get into play? So the first stage is something called metalude. Okay. So imagine, you might be going to an arcade or somewhere, and you're kind of just scouting, which machine am I going to play today? That's called metalude, and you're just busy thinking about, what would I like to do today? But once you've got that, you will then issue something called a play cue.
Okay.
Right? Just like improv, you make an offer. And when you issue a play cue, that's usually to somebody else if you're playing together.
Okay.
So, for example, when you got in touch with me to say, would you like to do a podcast? That was a cue.
Okay.
And then what I did was receive the cue.
Okay.
And once you have that, you're then in flow.
Okay.
And that's how the play gets started and continues. And the word flow is so interesting, of course, because that's how, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's flow work.
Right.
His theories actually come from having observed a lot of adults talk about how they get into flow.
Okay.
And many of them were in play.
Wow.
So the ingredients are, just incredible.
So we might be doing it already and not even aware of it.
Yeah, we're doing it. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And it seems like you must be super playful to be doing this. Right? Because if the stress overrode the joy, you wouldn't be doing it for so many years.
No, but the joy is the learning. Absolutely. And I get to meet new people like you, and it's just fun.
And it was a hobby, you said at the beginning.
Yeah, I started doing it as a hobby.
That's how you know it's a real passion. And then, and that's the other thing with flow, right? They talk about something called an autotelic personality.
Okay.
And that's the idea that actually you're so motivated for doing its sake.
Yes.
That it overrides the end goal. But that's exactly how you get to the end goal, and maybe even exceed it, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
play
awesome.
Is really interesting.
Okay.
Oh, but we were talking about that cycle, and once you've actually done the handshake,
yes.
What happens when we're done? Well, when we're done, it's called annihilation.
Really?
Isn't that such a strong...
Is that what it's really called?
Yeah, it's such a strong word.
That sounds like board games in my family.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like we're done. We're finished. But when it's done, the ground is raised, and we will start the metalude again when you're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird that it's called annihilation.
Yeah, they're really strong words. And there's just two more things, because your listeners might be interested. Is, how maybe when your kids were a little bit younger, it's really obvious. So once you get from the metalude, you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, okay, let's shake hands and we'll play. One of them might go, I don't like it that way. It's not perfect, the line. And then, that's display. And the way you spell that is DYSPLAY.
Like anti-play.
Yeah.
Okay.
But actually, it's a perfectly legitimate stage of the process, right? It's like, oh. And then if you wait for long enough as a parent and the child scrunches it up, tears away, and at this point, you just leave them and let them get on with it. Then they might go, then they go, and they'll get another piece of paper and they'll try again.
Start over again, yeah.
And what I think happens too often, right, the role of the manager, the leader, and the parent, right, so many parallels here, is they jump in and go, what's wrong, Bob?
Yeah.
I'll fix it for you. Or we're still, Bob, what's wrong with you? I need to see need to see you for your appraisal. It's like, and what's the final bit?
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So if we see a team that's not delivering, the parallel to that would be, we'll figure it out.
Oh, well, no, because that's about the goal, right? So they're waiting toward, it depends. It's about offering help. So this is actually the other step in this process, right?
Okay.
So if you intervene, there are ways of intervening.
Okay.
So if you said, how's it going?
Yeah.
That is technically intervention, even though it's inquiry, but that's the, least invasive.
Right.
That's acceptable, right? But any more than that is actually called annihilation.
It's also annihilation.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay. It's not. It's adulteration. Adulteration, where the adult steps in and spoils the play.
Huh.
So if a team isn't delivering, I would say they're probably not in flow. So if they're not in flow, then you're not interrupting anything.
Okay.
So that's legitimate. But if they are in flow and doing their thing, and then you step and go, I have an architect to introduce you to, I think he's going to do a much better job than you are, then that would be adulteration.
Okay.
Yeah, the words are so powerful, aren't they? And especially when you associate with something that seems so soft and fluffy as play. But, you know, these play researchers and philosophers and scientists are serious about this cycle.
It's interesting. There's another coach that I was talking to, and he was saying that he had learned with his team that they were having a problem.
Mm-hmm.
He spent a lot of his career wanting to kind of jump in and be, hey guys, you know, this thing, maybe not so much. He found it was much more valuable to let them do whatever they can do, fail, and then come to him. Because it's a request, or they would invite him to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to do anything less is actually infantilization.
Okay.
It's this massive assumption that they won't sort it out.
Yeah, or that we don't have time for them to learn to sort it.
Absolutely. And I mean, so because I'm also a trained coach, I have found that I call it the self-sufficiency principle, but this existed out there already, I just gave it the name, is that, you know, everyone has everything they need to overcome the challenges they face.
Okay.
And I remember hearing this is very car bumper sticker type thing. And I remember hearing this when I was young, and I thought, oh, it's a beautiful aspiration.
Right.
But this is not the world I see in front of me. But as I got into play, and then the coaching and watching people grow, and you're a parent, you've seen how children grow. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. When you believe in them, then they get it done. Okay. That's because they have those resources, right? And if one of those resources might be ask for help.
Yeah.
So they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. So for you, what is the biggest benefit out of this? I mean, what do you get out of it when you're helping people learn how to do this?
Well, I guess it goes back to why I actually got into play.
Okay. So
I know it sounds like this kind of glorious, happy, clappy topic. But when I became a parent, you know, you read a lot of books, and it was the same reason I started the ukulele playing. I read that you can't give what you don't have.
Okay.
And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, you know, I did play music. I didn't really play with music because I was told I wasn't musical by a piano teacher at a very young age, and given up on myself and all that. I'm like, oh.
That's terrible.
And I thought, exactly, but that was probably adulteration, no?
Yeah.
And so...
I mean, unless you were really terrible.
Thanks, Dave. And... well, I was a child. I was learning. How can you be terrible when you're a child and you're learning, or an adult learning? And when I thought, you know, you can't give what you don't have, I was like, wow, that is so profound. You know, it's like leaders trying to give truth or honesty. They can't possibly give that if they don't believe and trust in themselves or trust in others. And that's when I started my journey of, okay, well, let's be more congruent and actually acquire and practice what I do. And then that way I can hope to give it, because I love giving was really what motivated me. And as I got more and more into play, what's your earliest memory of play, Dave?
Wow. My G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
Big in my G.I. Joe when I was kid, yeah. Traded my blanket for a G.I. Joe.
You traded your blanket for a G.I. Joe?
Traded my security blanket for a G.I. Joe.
Wow. Was there
like
a specific...
17 years old. I'm kidding. I was like 3 or 4.
And it was a specific G.I. Joe or the G.I. Joe?
Well, there were many.
Yes, exactly.
I believe it was the one with the red beard.
What?
Fuzzy red beard.
Did he have a name?
G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay. Right, okay.
They were all called G.I. Joe.
Oh, wow. That's confusing but fun at the same time. The one with the red beard.
Well, they had Kung Fu Grip G.I. Joe, but that was much later.
Okay. So you were 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so what's really interesting with that question is, in general, people tend to remember something from between the ages 5 to 8.
Okay.
And what I'm finding is that the more playful people actually have an earlier play memory than that.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Why do you think that is?
Well, so this is the thing. It turns out that play is instinctive, so it's innate, but it also needs to be nurtured. Okay. So it's not either or.
All right.
Right? So if, it's like if you were into drawing and then you keep drawing, but at some point your parents go, oh, that's not very good. And you obviously want them to love you because you're smaller as an organism. Because you're into people pleasing.
Okay.
But what was interesting, and I will circle around about how I got to play and why, is that when I was asked that question the first time, because I was on a play work training course, my memory came from when I was 12.
Oh, that's rough. Don't tell your parents that. They'll feel bad.
Well,
or whoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of made
12. Man, what happened?
Well, we'll come to that. And
maybe that's too personal. Sorry.
No, I'm glad we're friends. We're friends, right? And you issued a cue just now. I can choose whether or not to receive it. And it turns out that if you didn't play enough between the ages of 0 to 5, and by play we include affectionate touch like hugs, your brain could be up to 30% smaller.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, right, it's great to have all this information, but oh my goodness me, I wasn't ready for this search and what it revealed. And what I discovered was that the reason I struggled with parenting early doors was because I couldn't remember how to play. Yeah. So all of it was foreign.
Wow.
And also there was this whole kind of the cultural part as well. So, I was kind of raised Chinese, a little bit American, but, in Hong Kong culture. And then it wasn't until I was 12 when I moved to England.
Wow.
And I felt liberation.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was only when I started self-reflecting, okay, let's not be too scared about this. Let's treat everything as
amazing.
Data. And by remembering that, I so much more value my best friend from school, because we're still best friends now. Yeah. And I said to her, as I look more and more at this play work, you used to be my hippie, and now I'm my own hippie.
Aww.
And it's so interesting, because by unlocking that memory of the 12, where actually I was playing with her, and I got like soaky feet, and there were slugs on my feet as a result. Because she was into risky play, and I was terrified of risky play. But true play is also risky play. I played with her, and when I thought about, okay, well, hang on a minute. Is it possible that my parents don't love me? What exactly happened? And as we're friends now, I'm happy to share this.
You and all of Facebook.
Indeed. Hello, friends. And being real. And I realized, well, no, it's not that they didn't love me. And they love me still.
Right.
But obviously parents love in a
different way. Yeah, in their own
wonderful way. We all love each other. And I thought, okay, so it's not that. So what was it? And I started sort of asking this question of, when's your earliest play memory? And naturally, the majority of adults would confide me and say, I don't remember my parents ever playing with me.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, that's good, because I don't either.
Yeah, my memory was me playing with him by myself.
So that's solo play.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense, because when you're very little, even up to like the age of 1 or 2 sometimes, children will sit next to each other, but they'll do their own thing. Yeah. That's perfectly natural. You would expect that. And it takes a while before they work or play together, because they're exploring the world. And solo play is perfectly legitimate. But it was that realization that they didn't play with me. So it wasn't that they didn't love me, but they didn't play with me. Then I started thinking, okay, what else do I know that can give me some insight? And I thought about Maslow's hierarchy and the basic needs.
Yeah.
So what they always did was make sure I was clothed and fed, got to bed on time, went to school, encouraged to get good grades. So they did all of those basic needs. And even nowadays, when I look around knowing all this now, you go to a restaurant, how many children are sat there with a device? And then the parents might even be looking in opposite directions instead of talking to each other. And this isn't judgment. This is pure observation. And we then wonder why, when our children become 18 years old, that they're worried and talking about suicide because they can't cope with going to university because they spent all their lives playing computer games.
Yeah.
Because that has nothing to do with computer games. Because if it wasn't the computer games, it would have been something else.
Yeah.
So I find myself now going into this world of kind of play coaching for adults who want so much for their children because they love their children. They're like, how do I reconnect with them? And
this is
through play.
Really well connected with the whole self-care theme this year.
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
Yeah, and play is the ultimate act of self-care.
Okay.
And when I started looking at some key attributes of these, what I call playmakers, people who really kind of, they don't just change the game, right? They invite everyone along and they make sure they have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's why it doesn't need to be full of pain and suffering, right? It's like if you have a chronic condition.
Yeah.
You know, they always, and I have 2 now, which was part of why I started my play journey.
Okay.
Kind of, and what I realized was actually I can choose to suffer, but actually it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
You will feel the pain, of course you do, but then you're going to decide whether or not you're going to go, oh, I'm just a victim and it's it's whose fault is it that I have this and whatever, right? And I thought, oh, suffering's optional. That's great. At least I have a choice now, but darn it, that makes me responsible now.
This is awesome because we started today out with Christopher Avery.
Oh, yes, of course.
So it's a great connector there.
Yeah, play is a massive test and opportunity to practice responsibility. Yeah. So when I was talking about these 5 kind of attributes that emerge as I observed adults playing, the first one is resourceful.
Okay.
They're like, Avengers Assemble. I love going to techie conferences because if you have any issue with any device,
there's people to help you.
Yeah, you just turn to the next door person and go, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password?
Yeah.
You're like, great. I mean, how often can you do that in life? I have a question and someone go, no judgment. They just give you the answer. Yep. So resourcefulness. And then the second one is that they are responsible.
Okay.
Like true playmakers, they might make a mess. Of course, that's messy
they'll clean
play.
it up when they're done. Yeah.
They might even get the vacuum cleaner out and just give it a good once over and leave it better. See, it's so Boys and Girl Scouty, isn't it? Yeah. So they're very responsible. So that's why they care about each other and they will double check that we have permission to play before we start. Okay. Just like we did. We had a chat together and we had lunch together and we talked about play. So, that was resourceful, that was responsible. And then the third one is respectful. Okay. It's so incredible when I've met, I've gone far to meet adults who play where there's no it's not about no boundaries, but there's no falseness between us anymore. It's almost like, it's my 5-year-old self talking to your 5-year-old self, and you know what? You've got a great toy, so I've come to play. Yeah. And that respect is just so fundamental to us.
And you share and care for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't, then why would you play together?
Yeah.
Right? So that's respect. And then the fourth one is resilience.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity of going to a conference called Counterplay. So you've got the chance to go. It's in Denmark. Okay. Remember, Denmark is home of Lego. Yeah. And you can fly into Billund, which is where Legoland is. Okay. And it's actually in a little further away town called Aarhus. And actually, Jeff Sutherland, I think, still teaches Scrum courses there in Aarhus. And it's a beautiful little town. And a young man called Matthias Poulsen, he organized this conference called Counterplay, and it's every other year now. And I went there. I thought, I'm terrified of this because if I volunteer to talk about play, they're going to realize I'm a fraud. But I thought, well, how else will I know? Yeah. So I submitted and he said, come and keynote for us. I was like, okay, well, since they're the play experts, they know best. So I rock up and I do my thing, just terrified because you've got people teaching clowning, people doing improv, all sorts, working for charities, doing great work. They come up to me and go, wow, you've done a great job at professionalizing it, as in articulating it in corporate so that they will play more. I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, I learned so much from them about doing movement and dance and exploration. Yeah. But the key thing was one night we went out for drinks. And you know how it's like normally with adults and alcohol, right? It's
I don't know anything about that.
No, indeed.
At all.
Well, it's normally not good, clean fun, shall we say.
Yes.
So we were in this cobbled stone pub in a sort of alleyway, sitting out al fresco. And we were doing all sorts of street play and being very noisy and boisterous. And that kind of alleyway narrowed in space, but pedestrians still carried on coming over. Now, in my experience, if this happened in the UK, then the majority of us who were playing would kind of give the pedestrian a dirty look. Yeah. Walking past you are interrupting our play. Yeah. But you know what these playmakers did? They said, oh, sorry about that, but hey, would you like to come and play with us? And then they created space for the pedestrian to walk past. And then an invitation to come in. Wow. And some of them did. And the pedestrians were so smiley that you knew they didn't feel threatened or oppressed. And I thought, wow, these are the true playmakers. And this is what play looks and feels like. Yeah. So what if we can create this in a space of, we need to adopt a new methodology. And this is what I mean by suffering is optional. Okay. And it doesn't even need to be painful. Because if you look at the psychology of human development, this is incredible when I found out. But actually, when people have the right conditions to change, it's easy, it's effortless.
When it's not forced upon them. Yeah.
Hence the choice and personal responsibility.
Okay.
I'm like, right, great. And now that I know change is easy, then I don't need to be scared about it. So how do we create these right conditions? Hence these kind of 4 attributes. And then the last one is the real.
Okay.
Do you remember the story of the Velveteen Rabbit?
Yes.
Tell me, what do you remember?
The rabbit wanted to be a real rabbit.
And it was a stuffed toy rabbit, wasn't it?
Right, but I can't remember the rest.
Yeah,
I'm
and
mixing it up with one about a teddy bear.
Yeah, and it turns out that the little boy then ends up loving this rabbit because it had a different toy, and the stuffed toy felt like, oh, I must be real, because the little boy says I'm real. But then the little boy contracts some kind of illness and gets really sick. So the nursery nanny at his home, looking after him, takes this rabbit who thinks it's real, puts it in a black bin liner and takes it out, ready to be burned because it must have been some kind of disease.
Yeah.
And at this point, the bunny rabbit's like, hang on a minute, I love my little boy. It's like Toy Story.
Yeah.
But he starts moving, which is unusual for a stuffed toy.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of awakening. And then the fairy comes along and says, oh, little rabbit, what is it you wish for most? And he says, I wish to be real. And so the fairy says, yes, that you are deserving of this, of course. So she picks him up and takes him to a nearby field, plonks him in the middle of the field, and says, you are real now. And these little, wild rabbits come along and sniff him. But this time they go, oh, yeah, you're real. You can come to play with us. Whereas previously they'd rejected him because they knew he was not right. And of course, that means that he transformed into a live rabbit. I think that story is so profound, right? Because there is a cost to being real, right?
Yeah.
And that's mortality,
He's
and it's so
die,
profound. But, that was his journey of being real.
Okay.
And for me, in terms of personal development, the psychology of all this is to say we are actually trying to increase our complexity over time. And that's the maturity of a human being. So, for example, someone who hasn't been able to quiet their mind and take up meditation, but nonetheless over time tries to quiet their mind, that is increasing the complexity of your organism.
Okay.
Because it enables you to do more.
Yeah.
So if you don't, go all hangry, hungry and angry at the same time and everybody all the time, but you're better at managing yourself.
And then you can be there for others. That's
and you
awesome.
can do so much more, right?
Yeah.
And I think, that story was so poignant. And there's a reason that these children's stories tell us, because they contain the truths that regular adults who don't play enough couldn't tell us.
Well, that's cool. So you're teaching classes on this stuff, right?
Yeah. So Playful Leadership is a really new concept. And what I'm trying to do is I take the best of play science, psychology, neuroscience, and then the coaching in a goodie bag, shake it all around, and then create an environment where individuals can emerge as themselves and discover what leadership means to them. Because what I realized was that I've always been a reluctant leader, because I didn't just want to read a book and go, oh, well, that's it, I'm going to be a servant leader. Because it's just because you copy something, it's like borrowing someone else's shoes and expecting them to fit. It does not work. And I always
find your own way with it.
Yeah, it really, and it comes back to personal responsibility again and being real. So we ran the first one in July, and what I noticed, and again, you have children, you know this, is that, just given time. I remember once taking my little girl for a swim, and she was about 6 or 7 months old, and I was obviously over enthusiastic. And I plonked her in the pool, and I was like, great, we're going to swim. And she was like, clearly being tortured and letting me know what was what. And she even managed, she was so unhappy, she managed to kind of scramble with my help to the side of the pool, and then she actually climbed out herself. And that takes physical strength and stamina that I didn't even know she had. And then she just sat on the side of the pool and looked at me.
Wow.
Right? And I was like, okay, so I have some options here.
Yeah.
The first one that I'm most familiar with, having been inflicted on me, and I'm sure I have done some to others, is JFDI, right?
Yeah.
I can just grab her because I have brute force, I'm stronger than her, and I can plug her in and go, well, we're going to dunk you some more until you get used to it.
Yeah.
Right? Is that not torture? Right?
It is.
Yeah.
But a common parenting technique.
Sadly, yeah. Right. So it goes back to being forced to play is punishment, not play.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, well, this isn't going to work, because even if I manage to successfully make her an athlete in swimming, as she gets older, she will be stronger than me.
Yeah.
And we will end up arm wrestling.
And she will beat you.
Right. But there will be broken arms. And I don't want to break anything of this love of my life. So I thought, okay, I know. I'm going to show her I'm having such a good time.
She'll want to join in.
Yeah, right, because that's the play theory.
Yeah.
So I was like going there 20 minutes, I was singing, I was moving, I was like, wow, this is tiring. And that's the other thing. So it helped me realize that actually that kind of true play is exhausting. And that's why parents who are already exhausted don't have the energy to do it. But ironically, the more you do it, the more energy you get, and then the greater a bond you have with your child. Right? So I did this for 20 minutes, and then she looks at me, no judgment, she's just looking, sussing out, looking at the data. And then she just slides into the pool on her own, and then we get on with it.
She got to decide on her own.
And at that moment, I thought to myself, that's how change happens. And that happens so much more effectively and efficiently than adults with fear of water will do. There might be adults who manage to overcome it, but some will never overcome it, even when they become real rabbits. Right?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So they're gonna tear the building down.
Oh, yes. No worries. Love to spend time together.
That's the hard thing about that. I love having the conversation. At the same time, I'm like hyper aware of all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
People that are at the conference are going to get to see you tomorrow morning.
Yes.
People that aren't at the conference.
Yes.
Where can they see you? Where can they learn about you?
Oh, yes, of course. So we ran the first Playful Leadership Foundation course in July.
Okay.
And where I was getting to is the adults, with each moment that passed, you could see they kind of grew a little bit more. And by the end of the 2 days, it was just kind of like, they discover what being themselves and leadership means. And the beauty of this is it is a container, it is an environment, and what you put in is what you get out. So the next one we're running is in October in the UK, 7th to 8th of October. And it's in this beautiful kind of almost Jane Austen-y building called Chichley Hall. It's the country home of the Royal Society. So the society where all the scientists get together. But it's a lovely home, and if you or your friends are interested in coming to play, it'd be delightful to play again.
So where do they go on the interwebs to find it?
So it's theschoolofplay.org.
All right. There you go. Well, thank you very much. This is a great meeting, and I hope it goes well tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much,
It was a very
Dave.
playful day. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that's it. We're done.
Yay!
Thank you for watching all these videos. Thank you to everyone who let me interview them. I have learned a ton in the past couple of days. And thank you for being here to close it out.
And thank you to Dave for following his passion this past decade, because we wouldn't have so much wonderful content otherwise. Now that's Playful Leadership.
Thank you.